Welcome to this explainer. I am so excited about today's topic because we are going on an epic journey. We're going to uncover the hidden connections between the exact screen you are looking at right now, everyday modern phenomena, and some incredibly obscure but absolutely fascinating history. We're tracking the ultimate technological underdog story, a story that literally laid the structural chassis for global visual culture and modern artificial intelligence. So, let me ask you a question. How did a 14-year-old farm boy, way back in 1921, write the exact hardware blueprint for modern AI? I know, it sounds totally like science fiction, right? But it's actually a massive historical mystery that we're going to unravel today. We are going to explore exactly how an early 20th century teenager created the entire visual framework for the 21st century. And spoiler alert, he bypassed the world's most powerful corporations to do it. Okay, so let's dive into this by taking a look at the mechanical ceiling of the 1920s. Back then, corporate heavyweights like GE and AT&T were totally stuck. They were trying to capture moving images using these heavy, spinning metal wheels called Nipkow discs. Honestly, it was basically like trying to capture the speed of light using the clumsy physics of a steam engine. It just didn't work. The result was this tiny, flickering, postage stamp-sized image that was completely limited by sheer kinetic velocity. To break through this mechanical ceiling, the world needed the electron dissector. It was a radical idea. Strip away all the physical mechanics completely and just use the pure mathematics of invisible electrons. Now, the person who championed this mind-blowing idea was definitely not some established corporate titan. It was this guy, Philo T. Farnsworth. He is the ultimate underdog disruptor. Farnsworth was a 21-year-old self-taught eccentric who realized that the only way to truly transmit video was to throw those mechanical wheels in the trash. He knew he had to manipulate electrons if he wanted to recreate the visual world at the speed of light. And he actually set out to do it, completely off the radar, in a clandestine lab in San Francisco. But, to really understand Farnsworth's genius, we actually have to rewind a few years to the summer of 1921 in Rigby, Idaho. Picture this. A 14-year-old boy is sitting atop a horse-drawn harrow, looking out over this massive potato field. He's methodically carving neat, parallel lines into the earth. And as he sat there, staring at the geometric precision of those endless dirt furrows, boom, he experienced a flash of profound technological intuition. That single moment of childhood intuition birthed what we call raster scanning. Farnsworth reasoned that a camera shouldn't try to swallow an entire image all at once. Instead, it could do exactly what he was doing to the Earth right then and there. It could slice the visual image into an endless series of neat, parallel, horizontal lines. So before he had ever taken a single formal physics course, this farm boy sketched out the exact foundational logic for almost every display screen of the next 80 years. Unbelievable, right? The whole process builds so beautifully. Think of it like this. Just like carving that field, the camera first slices the complex image into lines. Then, a tightly focused electron beam sweeps across that visual landscape, translating the light and dark spots into electrical current. Finally, at the receiving end, a second beam, perfectly synchronized with the first one, paints those lines back onto a glass screen. It happens so incredibly fast that our brains just perceive it as a solid, moving picture. Fast forward to 1926, and Farnsworth needed to turn those childhood drawings into actual physical hardware. So he established the 202 Green Street Incubator. Think of this as basically a 1920s Silicon Valley-style startup. It was backed by private San Francisco risk capital and set up on the second floor of a totally nondescript brick warehouse. But here's the catch. The parts he needed simply did not exist in commercial markets. You couldn't just go buy them. So Farnsworth and his tiny team had to engineer a highly sophisticated vacuum tube foundry completely from scratch. They even hired a local glassblower to handcraft the delicate components. Now, working in total secrecy with drawn curtains and massive electrical surges, well, that tends to attract the wrong kind of attention. This was the height of Prohibition, and the local police got highly suspicious. Thinking they had uncovered a massive, illicit industrial liquor distillery, armed federal agents executed a tactical raid on the lab. Can you imagine the look on their faces? They bust down the doors expecting copper stills and crates of booze, and instead, they find these strange, glowing cathode ray tubes and high vacuum pumps. Total confusion. Once the federal agents cleared out and the confusion settled, Farnsworth got right back to work. He was aligning two magnificent pieces of proprietary hardware. First up, the image dissector. This was the camera tube that read the image using magnetic deflection coils. And second, the oscillograph, the receiver tube, which was coated with a fluorescent zinc silicate screen to catch and paint that incoming signal. All of this relentless work led right up to the morning of September 7th, 1927, the definitive trial. In one room, they had the image dissector facing a really simple, backlit glass slide. Farnsworth's wife, Pem, had actually just painted a solid, thick, black, straight line right onto the glass. In the other darkened room, Farnsworth stared intently at the tiny 4-inch face of the oscillograph screen. He waited with bated breath as his brother-in-law, Cliff, engaged the high-voltage power. Suddenly, the lab filled with the hum of magnetic coils sweeping at thousands of cycles per second. Instantly, the zinc silicate flared green, and right there, dead in the center of the screen, was a pristine, sharp, perfectly defined black line. When Cliff turned the slide in the other room, the line tilted on the screen in perfect real-time synchronization. Breaking the absolute stunned silence in the room, Farnsworth delivered this legendary quote. "There you are, electronic television." Just like that, human communication was permanently changed. Of course, as with any startup, he had corporate backers who were getting a little anxious about their speculative investment. They wanted to know when they were going to see a return, So what did Farnsworth do? For his very first formal demonstration to the press and his investors, he cheekily decided to broadcast a clear, unambiguous dollar sign. He literally showed them the money. I just love that. But, naturally, Farnsworth's massive technical triumph immediately plunged him into a vicious intellectual proxy war. This was a true David versus Goliath battle. On one side, you have our scrappy indie startup. On the other, you have David Sarnoff. Sarnoff was the predatory president of the multi-million-dollar RCA empire, and he had publicly vowed to totally monopolize the upcoming television era. He wasn't about to let some kid from Idaho take the prize. Sarnoff played dirty. In 1930, he engaged in some serious corporate espionage. He sent his own brilliant head scientist, Vladimir Zworykin, all the way to San Francisco. Zworykin masqueraded as an admiring peer on a deceptive 3-day scouting mission to evaluate the young disruptor's system at the Green Street lab. Now, Farnsworth was incredibly open-hearted and proud of his work, so he showed Zworykin absolutely everything. He even handed him a highly proprietary image dissector tube to examine. Holding this revolutionary piece of glass in his hands, Zworykin couldn't hide his awe. He made a stunning admission right then and there. "This is a beautiful instrument. I wish I had invented it myself." Even RCA's absolute top mind knew Farnsworth had achieved sheer perfection. Well, Zworykin took everything he learned straight back to RCA to accelerate their own designs. Sarnoff then tried to bleed Farnsworth's startup dry with a brutal, multi-year litigation war. But Sarnoff made a fatal miscalculation. During the landmark patent interference case number 64027, Farnsworth's legal team dropped a bombshell piece of evidence. They brought out his 1922 high school chemistry notebooks. Those pristine, hand-drawn diagrams of the linear, raster-scanning field, sketched by a 14-year-old boy, proved undeniable historical priority. Completely defeated by a young inventor's legal fortress and, let's be real, a high school notebook, the massive corporate giant had to give in. In 1939, David Sarnoff formally surrendered. He signed RCA's first ever formal licensing agreement, legally agreeing to pay Farnsworth millions in continuous royalties. A highly focused, brilliant startup had literally out-engineered and out-litigated the world's largest communications monopoly. So, why are we talking about all this today? The crucial point is how this incredible history directly drives our present. Farnsworth decoupled data from physical form. We can trace a literal, unbroken continuum from the 1927 Green Street roster straight through the flat screens of the 1990s, all the way to the high-powered GPUs and cognitive systems powering Phase 7 AI today. Think about it. If you compare those early cathode ray tubes to modern displays, you realize something absolutely amazing. When the tech sector transitioned to flat liquid crystal displays and OLEDs, they didn't actually invent a new logic. They simply digitized Farnsworth's exact same synchronized raster scanning sequence. They just replaced the moving electron beam with an addressable matrix of solid-state pixels, refreshing line by line. The underlying logic is absolutely identical, and it goes even further into modern AI. Today's high-velocity computer vision models, the ones developed by giants like OpenAI and Anthropic, use this very logic to see the physical world. When a machine learning model ingests a video frame today, it executes the exact mathematical inverse of Farnsworth's image dissector. It slices the flat image into an array of linear pixel matrices and feeds them directly into high-speed NVIDIA GPUs. It's the same concept. There is also this beautiful geographic echo to all of this that I just can't get over. Look at the urban realignment of innovation today. The modern generative AI boom has migrated right back to the dense urban fabric of San Francisco. Today's cutting-edge AI startups are operating out of repurposed industrial warehouses in the Mission and Potrero Hill, literally just blocks away from the exact same brick walls at 202 Green Street where electronic television was born. And you know that plain brick building at 202 Green Street still stands today as California Historical Landmark No. 941. To me, it is a true monument. It represents the very space where data was decoupled from physical form forever. It proves that an independent mind, operating with uncompromised clarity, can absolutely rewrite reality from the edge of the frontier. Which leaves us with this final thought for today. Take a moment to look really closely at the screen you are using to watch this explainer right now. The infrastructure rendering the image you are seeing uses parameters established a full century ago. So the real question is, are you just looking at a piece of high-tech glass and plastic, or are you, in mathematical terms, simply staring into the dirt furrows carved by a 14-year-old boy in a 100-year-old potato field? Thanks so much for exploring this with me today, and keep questioning the world around you.